This is the world of Salesforce and Dropbox, HubSpot and Evernote, a world unthinkable without cloud software services. Most businesses and consumers use SaaS every day to get work done. Driven by the internet and ever-expanding availability of bandwidth, SaaS has come to dominate our lives in a very short span of time. But developing a defining service, often ahead of its time, getting users to engage, secure funding, protect IP, and building a truly remarkable and successful SaaS is not an easy task. SaaStories brings conversations with the dreamers and visionaries who dared to think ahead. How they built their SaaS, genesis, struggles, trials, tribulations, and eventually success. Welcome to SaaStories. Thank you for your time and for joining us in this session. I have a favor to ask. While you continue to listen to the podcast, please leave a comment or rating at iTunes or wherever else you get your podcasts from. I personally look at each comment and will give you a shout out to each of you in our following episodes. It means a lot to hear from you. Just a quick intro to PitchLink. Typically, once the explainer video on your site is watched, the communication plan falls squarely on the visitor's court. Your prospect who took the trouble to find you via your search-optimized content or various digital marketing advertising now has landed on your website and watched your succinct explainer. She's interested in your product. What next? Now she has to navigate your website, go to various links to see product information, detailed demos, customer testimonials, and use cases. That's when she drops off. No one except the desperate has the patience. Build your story, line up all relevant information and collaterals, target it to each ICP and lead them to a cogent, near-personal narrative. Capture their data if you so desire, or lead them to your existing funnel to register, all with the public PitchLink feature. Want to know more? Sign up for a free one-on-one session. Welcome to this new exciting episode of SaaStories. We speak today with Markus Rentsch, founder of Remark-able.
First, determine are customers profitable? Because there's a high correlation between profitable customers and successful customers. Why? Because successful customers will buy more, they will buy expansions, they will buy upsells, so that the value they are contributing every month is growing. So, and that's also the idea behind our customer value growth, that you acquire customers where you can create a lot of value and continue to grow the customer value, and then you monetize it. So basically, it's about maximizing the customer value and monetize it. Whereas most SaaS companies the strategy is maximize the number of customers. So in the process, they spend all this high customer acquisition costs. They have churn rates of 15 to 20%, which is insane. And in the process, they are burning a lot of money.
Markus is the CEO of Remark-able, a consulting company helping SaaS companies to turn churn into profitable growth. He has spent the last years developing a new business framework called Customer Value-led Growth, a unique approach designed to continuously grow the value for the customer and their lifetime value in return. Markus is passionate about challenging the status quo, and prior to starting Remark-able, he has worked in various roles in controlling and corporate development. Now, onto this thoughtful episode with Markus Rentsch. Let's dive into this episode. Markus, welcome to our show. I would like to start by asking you to tell about the work you have been doing at Remark-able, and then we'll get on with the chat.
All right. Yeah, Remark-able is a consulting firm for SaaS companies. I'm the founder and the only employee, so it's really a one-man show. What I help SaaS companies with is to change the business in a more customer-centric way. So I feel like most SaaS companies talk about themselves as super customer-centric, but the truth is most of it is just marketing speech, and what they're really doing is they are really self-centric. So my mission is to help companies from what I call the customer acquisition-led growth model to the customer value-led growth model. And I would like to explain the framework and the philosophy behind and why it's what you need to do in the future.
Absolutely. So I'm a big believer of buyer centricity, and I will take it one step forward when I say that I really believe that the buying, selling transaction process is heavily dependent and controlled by the buyer. It's not like what it was 20 years back, where the salesperson had all the information, and especially in the SaaS world, it is absolutely buyer driven, right? So you can see the growth of product-led growth, which is also, you can talk about conversational marketing. These are all basically indicators that the buyers are far more crucial in this process. And it's not just, I'll advertise and I'll find people who will buy me, right? So what do you think about that, Markus?
Yeah, I think the product-led growth model is really interesting, but my idea of a growth strategy is, let's say, on a more global scale. So basically, to me, it doesn't matter if you're product-led growth or marketing or sales-led growth, because no matter how the customer buys your product and uses your product, the customers buy the product because they want to get value from the product.
Right.
So it doesn't really matter how you're starting it, because it's just about the outcome for the customer.
Absolutely.
So in customer value-led growth is you basically could use it combined with all three different go-to-market models. So that's the beautiful thing. So the core idea of customer value-led growth is that you acquire customers only if they are a strong fit. So only if you can say, these are the customers that will benefit a lot of our product. So and that's a fundamental shift to what most SaaS companies do today, because the companies I've seen and the companies I've worked with, they really go to the market and say, everybody is our customer. But that's not true. So they are employing a ton of sales people and marketers. They generate thousands of leads per month, or at least they call them leads. But the truth is, they are not leads.
Right.
So when they sign up customers at all costs, the infamous overselling from sales is always very present. And then customer success teams are the ones who need to work magic and make this customer successful. But not every customer is meant to be successful, because not everybody has the right expectations and does not possess the right means to become successful. So if a customer lacks resources or basic knowledge or the right company culture, these customers won't be successful. And all you generate by acquiring them, by convincing them to buy, despite the misfit, is you create churn, a lot of churn.
Yes.
So and so many SaaS companies, they are burning so much money because they are really spending on acquiring everybody, and at the same time they generate a lot of churn.
Absolutely. So let's step back for a moment. This is a very interesting point, because we have been talking about this literally for months together. Selling to the right customer, or finding a customer product fit. It is not so much as product market fit. I mean, I guess people will say it's the same thing, but it can be defined in many ways. But I think ensuring that the customer's expectation and the outcome that they want to achieve, the fact that you can or cannot deliver that, saying that upfront is extremely crucial. So let's start by you explaining your framework of customer value-led growth.
So basically, the framework behind this is that you first need to identify who is the right customer. So for doing that, you need to dive into your data. So it's much more complicated when it just started out, but for companies that are running already a few years, you need to really dive into the data and first determine, are customers profitable? Because there's a high correlation between profitable customers and successful customers. Why? Because successful customers will buy more, they will buy expansions, they will buy upsells. so that the value they are contributing every month is growing. So there usually should be a high overlap between these two groups.
Okay.
And from there, my idea is that you are reverse engineering your ideal customer profiles. So you say, okay, what is it that my most successful customers get? What value do they get? And also how profitable they are. Because, of course, you want to grow profitable. So basically, you are matching the two sides, your internal side and the external side. The external is the customer who gets a lot of value, and the internal side is that because the customer gets so much value, the customer is highly profitable. So, and that's also the idea behind our customer value growth, that you acquire customers where you can create a lot of value and continue to grow the customer value, and then you monetize it. So basically, it's about maximizing the customer value and monetize it. Whereas most SaaS companies the strategy is maximize the number of customers. So in the process, they spend all this high customer acquisition costs. They have churn rates of, 15 to 20%, which is insane. And in the process, they are burning a lot of money. But of course, they like to call themselves, we are customer-centric. But if you sell to everybody, you are not customer-centric. You are customer-centric if you have the customer success at heart and build everything around it. So if I would today start a SaaS company, I would first start with the customer value. What is the value I want to deliver? And then build everything around. So how am I going to deliver the value? How must the product design look like? How is marketing, sales, what I want to communicate, pricing strategy, etc., etc. What most SaaS companies don't seem to realize is, because there are so many of them today, you have so much competition, and that drives not only the customer acquisition costs, but also the expectations. So if I buy a product today and don't get the value I want, I simply move on and try another vendor. So there is the famous the MarTech. I don't know if you know that the MarTech image where you see, I don't know, there are like 7K companies in MarTech space.
8,000 now, as per Scott Binker. Yes,
8,000 now. Yes. So but most companies seem to ignore it. They still spend so much money on acquiring customers instead of growing them, while really each and every market research in SaaS says that new customer acquisition is by far the weakest growth level.
Your starting point, according to you, is the customer data, which is already sitting inside your application. How does a new SaaS company, which has really no data available, how do they apply your framework?
Yeah, that's entirely different. If you're a new company, you have to work with assumptions. So you can do all your market research and prepare as well as you possibly can, but you still have to work with assumptions. So you work basically with a hypothesis, and then you go to market and you validate your hypothesis, and then you adapt. So in the early days, churn is higher, and then your customer acquisition cost is higher because you have to run experiments. But as you mature and gain more customer insights, you need to refine all your framework.
Right. So tell me, I have been having some thoughts about this, and I want you to, as an expert, to tell me, how can we build websites which will actually inform, instead of making it a wide net that whoever comes sound as if you are useful to them and so on, how can we narrow the net and actually give information to people who are most likely to benefit from our product? How do you do that?
So the most effective way would be to narrow things down immediately. So ideally, you have a website where a possible customer comes and immediately can identify, is that what I want or is it not? So, but most websites say things like, we are automating your marketing.
Yeah.
So, but that's nice. But every one of your competitors is doing the same. So
yeah.
So what exactly do I get, and what makes you special? So that's really what's missing in most companies. So that's why I like the companies of Drift and Gone, because they're really special. They exactly say what the product is for. So Drift is basically, technically, it's just a website chat, but they say, okay, it's to do marketing and sales right now. So it's not to customer support or customer success. They're really going on to the selling part. And many companies are afraid to lose customer if they exclude some.
Yeah.
But I would bet with you that customers who are using Drift for marketing and sales will also use it for customer support and customer success.
Right.
But everybody knows Drift is the platform for conversational marketing, because that's what they do. Yeah. And likewise, what Gong does is they are recording basically your sales course and identify your best sales practices. So that's some kind of differentiation, and when people understand immediately what you're doing, they can also quickly verify if that's what they're looking for or not. So, but what most SaaS companies do is they keep things most vague.
Yeah.
And basically have everybody talk to sales.
Yeah.
And the effect they create is so that sales wastes like 80-90% of the time with manually disqualifying non-buyers.
Yeah.
Which makes no sense.
Yeah. True.
That's where most customer acquisition costs come from. The one-on-one sales conversations. So ideally, your sales conversation should only be with customers who come with the right expectations. So that sales starts with qualifying these customers. So is the product the best for the needs? And do they possess the means to become successful with the product? So that's also a big part of my framework. It's really a company-wide framework. So customer success or customer value is not the responsibility of only the customer success team, but from everybody. Because really the only reason why a company exists is to make customers more successful. And that makes everybody part of customer success, from the CEO down to really everybody. Everybody needs to contribute to help the customer achieve the goal. And also sales plays a big part, because if they're selling to a customer who doesn't possess the means to become successful, they won't become successful. And in the end, it's just all you did is you have acquired churn, because that's it. Customer success teams cannot fix a lack of fit. That it's impossible. They can certainly change a lot of things. They can train, educate, and consult the buyer. But if they don't have the resources or the culture or the processes, still the customer won't become successful.
Right. So why call this a customer value-led growth and not customer success-led growth?
Yeah, I don't know. I think customer success is it's basically what creates the value. But customer success is it's I think the value is a better term for, because it's what the customer gets from the success. Right. So if I have the customer to, I don't know, double their sales quota, so basically I could say, okay, that's really success. That's really success on the surface. But how much value doubling your sales quota has for the customer, that's from the customer. Right. So the customer needs to evaluate for themselves how much value is that kind of number we achieved, or that goal we have achieved. Right. So I found this a bit more personal, because in the end, all customer success is personal. So what really customers care about are not the numbers, but the meaning of the numbers.
Fair enough, because I think what you are talking of is outcome. end of the day, the outcome is what the customer is achieving. And what are you achieving as a company by helping the customer achieve his outcome, that is his desired outcome? That becomes your desired outcome as well, right? It's time for a short break. Stay with us. After the break.
So there's really what I call a customer success journey. And there are basically 4 major parts. One is the customer expectations, then the customer product fit, the onboarding, and the customer success I like to call it the customer success program. Because to me, customer success should always be engineered.
You are listening to a Business Podcast Network original. Podcasting is the fastest growing content marketing opportunity, which is untapped. We can help you craft your audio strategy and help leverage the wide reach and easy streaming capability that the smartphone penetration provides. It is easy, it is powerful and personal. Talk to us to find out how podcasting can help you build your brand and reach out to your targets like never before. Write to us at bpn@bizcast.in. That is bpn@bizcast.in. Business Podcast Network. Podcasts end to end. Welcome back. I'm Shubhanjan Sarkar, your host for SaaStories and founder of Pitchling, the buyer-seller engagement platform. Let's dive right back into this episode from where we left it. So, can you tell us some stories about brands which came to you, which were maybe early or not very large, and how you helped them identify their problems, identify the customer value that they're delivering, and then help them through the growth phase?
Yeah, so that the starting angle is basically always a high rate of churn. So, but to me, churn or retention, retention is obviously very important in SaaS, but still for me, it's the low-hanging fruit, because after some time, you should no longer have to worry about churn, but care about growing customers.
Right.
Because if you are growing your customers and they get so much value that they buy more resources, a churn never becomes an option. Because why should a customer who gets a lot of value even consider to part ways with you? So it doesn't really not make sense. So, and what most companies don't understand is that churn does not start after the customer bought the product. So as I've been talking before, it starts way much earlier in the process. So there's really what I call a customer success journey. And there are basically 4 major parts. One is the customer expectations, then the customer product fit, the onboarding, and the customer success I like to call it the customer success program. Because to me, customer success should always be engineered.
Right.
So the standard procedure in SaaS is usually to proactively reach out if you anticipate a customer has a problem. But there are a lot of risks within that kind of process. So customers are going dark without you noticing, or customers not even getting started. So the idea for me is that you are really like a teacher. So you are leading the customer through the process and have the customer to acquire the knowledge and the skills to become successful. That also goes far beyond product education. To me, customer success is not product education, but for me is to help the customer solve their problems with the help of the product and its features, of course. But a customer who lacks of knowledge won't see much success from the product itself. So basically, if you're struggling with meeting deadlines for customer projects, so a product might not be enough to change it. So if you're struggling with, scope creep or something, or scheduling, or distributing workloads, etc., the product won't solve your problems. But you need to acquire the skills on how to do it better, and then you transform it into the product.
So one of the thing is in the early days if you have a Me Too product, for example, you have acquired a customer from Drift and you have a very similar product like Drift, then typically the learning curve is very, very sort of flat. It's not a curve anymore, right? But if you're selling them a new kind of product, getting the customer to engage in the learning process itself is a big challenge. I mean, customers come and sign up, and then they're not available to invest time. They're not even if you're giving them free, consultation, they are not. They don't turn up. If you're running webinars and ask me anything sessions, they don't turn up. Except for the very engaged, they don't turn up. So how do you say the engagement, the teaching part that you are talking of? How do you do that effectively?
So the most important part is to really start with creating a perception of value for the customer. So if you have this approach on customer onboarding, many companies have unfortunately, they like to show the customer around and introduce them to each and every feature. But what they actually achieve is the customer gets confused, does not know where to start, gets nothing done, quits, and will never sign up again. So, but there are basically better ways to do it. So my idea for onboarding is to start with a kickoff, where you talk to the customer and ask, hey, what do you want to do first? What's the most important thing for you? So, and this way to get your customer commit to your product and your process. So you need to start building the relationship right from the beginning. If you reach out to the customer and tell the customer, here, look it up and send me a mail if there's a problem. So that's not customer engagement. And I just recently read a post on LinkedIn with a really scary number that 85% of customers who actually have a problem never reach out.
Yeah.
So you're basically waiting for the customer to reach out, but the customer never does. And until you realize, okay, there's something wrong, the customer might be gone and will never come back.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So my idea is to really start that joint project with the customer, with a kickoff, where you talk with the customer, what do you want to do first? And also to understand the customer's business. What are the processes? Why do they have this kind of problem? So and then tailor your services to really give the customer a quick win and win their engagement and commitment. So that's all we want. We are impatient. We want success and we want it fast and easy. That's what everybody wants. And once we get that, we are listening. We're listening and we are curious to learn more.
Yeah.
And if you continue to help the customer solve the problems and generate value, the more hooked they will become. And that's how you turn the customer into the nice term called raving fans.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. A lot of products can benefit from word of mouth, and this is actually referral. It's the raving fans will give you referrals, right? They will come and tell another friend, hey, I love this product. If you're doing X and I was doing X and X is the problem they're solving, they say, use this product and it solved my problem, and I swear by it. Absolutely. I totally agree with that.
Exactly. These are the benefits of successful customers. They will renew seamlessly because, as I've said, why should they leave if they get value? Then they will look into further scaling their value, so they buy more resources. And of course, the more value they get, the higher the motivation to actually give referrals. So one thing in customer success is the Net Promoter Score, which I think is a totally crappy KPI. So for once, it does not say that customers who have a high score will actively promote your product, but also you see customers of your top segment also churn.
Yeah.
Why? Because Net Promoter Scores and all the other scoring methods and all the other KPIs in customer success none of it actually measures customer success. So
Right.
customers buy your product because they want to increase their revenue, to reduce their costs, or to improve their productivity. And as I've said earlier, the personal outcomes connected with these kinds of numbers. So and that's what you need to measure. If a new customer comes and want to increase their revenue, you have to measure if the customer actually got what they want.
Yeah.
So in the best case scenario, you have some kind of shared metric system where you and your customer together track the results and the progress. So at least you should do this for your bigger customers. Of course, if you have a customer who pays like $50 a year, you can't invest that much of services. But for all larger customers, you really need to do that. You really need to invest into their success, build the right metrics, grow these customers, and you always need to stay on top of it.
Yeah.
So another issue I often run into, people saying, okay, we don't know whether customers will renew a contract next month. Why? Because they have no idea if the customer is actually successful.
Yeah.
So they rely on metrics to see, okay, the customer has adopted all product features, or the customer is highly active, but none of these metrics actually says if the customer is successful. The customer might be online and using a product night and day, but not because they're so successful, but because they keep trying, but get nothing done. But your metrics would never tell you that the customer does not get any outcomes. On the contrary, you would see, wow, this customer is amazing. That must be the champion of this company and our most, a raving fan, as we've said earlier. But the truth is, you're missing what's really going on.
What is, according to you, the time required to actually implement a project like this and ensure that they have actually done everything to build the structures and the processes which will deliver the outcome that the customer is looking for? How much time does it take for, and how long does it take for the returns to show?
Yeah, so it very much depends on that, how much data or what kind of data the company already gathers. So it's odd to me, but most SaaS companies, they really don't know whether a customer is profitable or successful. So you need to determine customer profitability, at least with an approximation of the service costs you have and the acquisition costs from the customer. And you need to talk to customers. If you don't know what outcomes they actually get, you need to talk with these customers and ask them, hey, what's going on? How has your business changed since you're using our product? How did your metrics change? How did your work change? So do you more of the valuable tasks now and less of the invaluable? So if you're a sales rep, you don't want to spend 80% of your time entering your CRM, but you want to spend it with sales, for example. And also on the personal level, what is the personal outcome of the value you got from the numbers you've got? So did you get more recognition? Did you solve your pain points? So that's what companies need to identify first. So and if you have none of this data, it maybe already takes some months until you collect all this data.
So one question that I have when I'm listening to is that this customer success measurement KPI, this may vary from customer to customer, right? I mean, all the customers may not see the same thing as what is giving them success. And you have to build your process around what the customer is thinking will give him success.
Yes, but that's the natural way of things. But you need to stay on top and find out what is the customer goal. So ideally, you have already at least approximately defined it with your positioning, but you need to be clear about it. So what is the customer goal? How do they measure success and progress? And you need to stay on top of this. This is what you as a customer success manager need to track down. And as you've said about the return on investment, most people think that new acquisitions let you grow faster. But the problem is it just appears to be faster. So that the reality is, it may take only a month to acquire a new customer, and it may take 6 months to grow a customer. But the big difference is, so it may take 6 times as long to grow the customer, but the thing is the conversion rates on the whole different level. So if you have marketing qualified lead conversion rates of, 1% and 50% of your existing customers expand, it's no match.
Yeah.
So you have basically, it takes 6 times longer, but you generate, you have 50 times higher conversion rate.
Right.
And that's only one impact, because as I said, you need to monetize customer success. So even without expansions or upselling, you can raise your prices. So most SaaS companies don't do that. They use what I call competitive prices. So they go to a competitor's website, copy their prices, and add or take a few percent. So that's it. But if you can raise your prices to the level what customers are willing to pay, you will grow insanely fast, because a price increase will affect all new acquisitions, expansions, upsells, and renewals. And how do you do that? You need to raise the customer value, and then their willingness to pay increases. So you basically have these individual effects with expansion and upselling, and you also have this, I don't know how to best call it, what's the best term to call it? You have this collective impact of customer success. And of course, on top, you also have the customer referrals.
Yeah, makes complete sense.
And the data also proves it. So I've read that SaaS companies with 100 million ARR or higher already make 50% of new ARR from existing customers. And Salesforce, I've recently read, they even make more than 70%. And it's really so highly efficient, because you have to spend so much less money on growing an existing customer compared to acquiring a new one. It's really no match. But it's really hard to get this into the heads of the companies and the CEOs. Most of them are really triggered by this, what I like to call the instant gratification. So they see, okay, we generate leads and we generate sales, but they're all blinded by the fact that these sales are really highly ROI inefficient. So you spend so much money. So there are companies that have, 36 months of CAC payback, which is incredible. Yeah, within 36 months, a lot of things can happen.
Yes.
Especially when your customer lifetime is 36 months.
Yeah.
So you basically have a 100% churn probability.
Yeah, I think we need to relook at the KPIs. We need to relook at how we define customer success. We need to define growth versus profitable growth, customer versus profitable customers. I think these terminologies are critical, and we need to rethink how we are doing business, because end of the day, more bootstrapped companies survive, which means they're doing something right with the customer because they need the customer to pay them, vis-a-vis funded companies because they're just burning through cash and just going through acquiring and acquisition of customers, not focusing on the real business, which is making the customers successful.
But the thing is, when you're a venture funded company and you operate the same way a bootstrapped company does, so with profitable growth, you will grow faster, further, and much more profitable.
Right.
So, but really, so many founders are blinded by the cash that you really are just wasting it on things that do not generate a ROI.
Right.
So where we need to go back to is how to grow in a sustainable way, in a customer-centric way, because today, as you've said in the beginning, the customer is in charge. So the customer has all the purchase power, and the customer decides your fate.
Absolutely. SaaStories is brought to you by PitchLink, the buyer-seller engagement platform. PitchLink enables high-quality interactions between buyers and sellers through presentation and discussion modules. Sellers create personalized sales presentations and reach out to prospects through a non-intrusive, buyer-qualified engagement. PitchLink requires no installation or download and holds the entire repository of sales collaterals and buyer-seller conversation. Talk to us to know more about how you can engage with customers without intrusion. Call us on 990-216-3132. That is 990-216-3132. Markus, thank you so much for joining me today, and I really enjoyed our chat. Thank you.
Thank you for inviting me. Let's talk soon again.
Yeah, absolutely. I look forward to that. We have a powerful lineup over the next couple of episodes with great conversations, including Lazare Razilan, co-founder and CEO of Spoke, and many more. Subscribe in your favorite podcast app so you do not miss a single episode. Thanks for listening. Thank you for being with us today and listening to this episode of SaaStories. This is where I speak with the dreamers and visionaries who dared to think ahead and build world-class SaaS products. We hope this conversation helped you with the insights that you can go and apply right now to your own SaaS journey. We hope to have you here with us again in the next episode of SaaStories. SaaStories is brought to you by PitchLink, the buyer-seller engagement platform, and is a BizCast original production.